Hi, Perfect Sweet Angels. I went shopping this week at one of my favorite secondhand stores in New York City. I hesitate to call it a thrift store, even though a lot of people do call it a thrift store incorrectly, because technically it is a buy-sell trade store, which is different from a thrift store in that they buy things from the community or like from whoever comes in, and then they either give back cash or store credit, which I happened to have for this trip, which was great. And I just wanted to make that clarification because I know that a lot of true thrifters watch my YouTube channel, thank God, and are gonna be like, babe, that's not a thrift store. And to that, I would say, that's so fair because you're right. But for the sake of this video, you're thrifting with me because YouTube thumbnails are tiny and YouTube titles are short. And because I found a lot of really cute stuff this time around and I want to take you guys, obviously, and show you. By the way, can I just say as an aside that I love to make YouTube videos that are thrifting, okay, with me, because in real life, I really hate to be rushed at the thrift store and therefore often prefer to do it alone. But also I feel as though I'm suffering, and not to be dramatic, a fate worse than death when I can't show my thrifting finds to someone who gets it. So with that said, let's freaking go thrifting. In very large quotes. There are a handful of Beacon's Closet locations in New York City, but my favorite one and the one that I have the most luck at is on Bogart Street in Bushwick. By the way, the one in Greenpoint is also pretty good during the week, but on the weekends, oh my God, it's so scary in the sense that it feels like the store is winning two contests. The first contest being most people in a store on a beautiful cloudless day, and the second contest being most customers throwing clothing on the floor, shrugging and walking away. And I find that the inventory in Bushwick is just a little better anyway. You might be able to tell by the footage that they sort things by color, which I personally find to be aesthetically pleasing, albeit a little bit impractical. I honestly really like this beige blazer, even though it was surprisingly originally from Zara Trafalgar. I don't know, I've really been into 3D roses on clothing for the past few years. The sleeves on this blazer just looked itty bitty, and I've been working out recently, so my massive guns probably are not fitting in there. I still can't do a real push-up, but I do love to eat a Trader Joe's acai bowl after each workout and pretend that I'm a wellness influencer. Because I didn't make a Pinterest board before coming here, I just sort of had like a vague idea about what I wanted to find, and I kept thinking the phrase, I'll know it when I see it, but the general vibe I was aspiring to be, honestly, and I'm gonna be vulnerable here, was Office Siren meets Twee meets Whimsigoth. And if those words don't mean anything to you, as always, congratulations, that's actually fucking awesome, genuinely, and I'm so happy for you, but unfortunately that simply can't be me, per my reference earlier to my insecure attachment style regarding Pinterest. By the way, part of me feels a little silly for being so online about fashion because it makes me scared that I'm only following trends, which always has the potential to be marginally to significantly more wasteful than like following your heart. And metaphorically speaking, covering your ears and going la 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 when someone tries to influence you to buy a garment made of polyester tissue paper on TikTok Shop. Basically, I'm grappling with the fear that my taste is too trendy and online, but I'm also remembering that fashion magazines are an ancient and sacred part of girlhood, and perhaps shopping primarily secondhand for these trends makes it more okay. Should my current taste be described as trendy at all? And no, I've never relaxed about anything in my life, and perhaps I never ever will. Anyway, at this point in the vlog, I had my hands free because I hadn't found anything yet that I felt like I needed on a spiritual and medical level, and was starting to get nervous that I wasn't gonna find anything, which of course would be okay. But I was hoping to find just one garment that would change my life forever and allow me to self-actualize, even though I'm pretty sure to self-actualize, I have to finish all the books that I keep starting and figure out what I want to do with my life literally on any level. But instead, here I was shopping in Bushwick. The good news is I started to find a bunch of stuff that I liked, like this freaking butter yellow blouse with microprinted apples and like rhinestone buttons. This polka dot blouse felt really twee in a good way, and simultaneously, the rhinestones on the collar, for some reason, it made me feel like a bad bitch. This corset t-shirt was also really cute, but I didn't need it. Something really scary happened next because I keep hearing discourse against my will about Labubus. Some people are famously pro Labubu, and others are saying that they will all be in a landfill in approximately 48 hours. And I was like, I would never dare to contribute to said discourse, but I did get an existential pit in my stomach seeing a Labubu t-shirt already in a secondhand store. Like, you already decided that you hate it? Beacon's Closet finding a second home for it is significantly better than the shirt going to a landfill, but I was just thinking like, no. Anyway, with that said, look how freaking beautiful the dress section is here. In addition to selling Labubu t-shirts, they also just have so much genuine and authentic vintage here in a way that just feels good to my brain even when I'm not necessarily buying it. I've been told occasionally in a pejorative way that I talk a lot in my YouTube videos, but I'm just fearful and also trying to be mindful of the fact that, like me, you might have a very short attention span. Also, look at this beautiful sheer micro polka dot, very, very vintage white dress. It was truly so darling, but I fear that I live too aggressively and with too much joie de vivre to wear such a delicate garment. Also, love a gunny sax moment, obviously. This dress looked a little bit too big for me, but oh my god, it was freaking perfect, and I have no doubt that another hottie will find it and adore it. I really liked this crisp white Peter Pan collar dress with a little bow at the waist, and I added it to my pile of things that I was starting to collect to try on. By the way, I was looking around so much shit at this point, and it was really hard to film, but I had to show you this brown fairy core / grandma core dress. I loved the lace patch and buttons on this dress, so I decided to try it on too. And lastly, before the fitting room, I liked this pleated skirt, particularly the contrast stitching near the top. The fitting room at basically any store is a place that can famously feel like an emotional battlefield, akin to unlearning years of therapy, genuinely on so many levels. But here's my little show and tell of what I brought in to try on. I noticed that there were some pretty substantial holes on this dress in the fitting room, and that kind of made me sad. The first thing that I tried on was the pleated skirt with contrast stitching. It technically fit me perfectly, but it was bringing me no joy whatsoever, and it didn't make me feel whimsical at all, although watching the footage back, I do think it is pretty cute. I love this polka dot blouse on me, although I did notice a loose thread / missing rhinestone on the collar once I tried it on. Next up, we have genuine heartbreak, which is of course to say that once in the fitting room, I noticed a giant hole in the armpit of this apple blouse, and I hated the feeling of the fabric on the shirt too, and decided that given the hole, it probably wasn't meant to be after all. The ripped vintage dress was also apparently not meant to be because it actually didn't fit on me anyway. Anyway, after the fitting room, I put a bunch of stuff back, and then I did another lap around the store with my newfound freedom, and I found a bunch of stuff that I didn't see the first time around, and then I quickly went back to the fitting room. I really wanted this sweater to work. I thought it would be so perfect for fall, where currently I am mentally for some reason, but it fit a little bit more tightly than I would have preferred. The tag on this Bjork t-shirt wasn't my size, but when I tried it on, it honestly fit perfectly. It was awesome. On my second sweep of the store, I also found this absolutely darling heart shirt by Samantha Pleat, who, by the way, fun fact, used to be my all-time favorite designer. So that was really special to me. Anyway, after that I checked out and went home, and it goes without saying that of course when I got home I got in PJs and got in bed. So obviously I'm back home, let's get into my haul. Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm moving soon, so the background, the boring background might change. Let's get into my haul. The first thing that I ended up getting, which perhaps is obvious, is just the Marc Jacobs Silk red and white Peter Pan collar blouse. I just want to say that I learned what a Peter Pan collar blouse was in like 2011 or 2010. It's like, oh my god, this is what's been missing from my life. And I've been truly devoted to this shape of collar ever since. I feel like I'm gonna sound so dumb when I say this, and yet here I am posting it on the internet. But I just feel like Peter Pan collars, because they're like less angular, kind of add like a sweetness to outfits. I also really like, and maybe people are gonna disagree, but I feel like these rhinestones on the collar kind of act as studs in a way. And in that sense, they kind of make me feel, like I said in the voiceover, like a bad bitch, especially juxtaposed against the softness of the red and white polka dots and the Peter Pan collar. Oh my god. I feel like it's worth pointing out that I do know that many people would argue that rhinestones are also girly. And to that I would say, you are so right. However, in my mind, I really like that there's kind of like a harshness about them, at least to me. The next thing that I ended up getting for obvious reasons is the Bjork t-shirt. For the few who may not know, and if that's the case, I'm so sorry that you've been missing out, but also you have so much to look forward to in discovering this if that's you. Bjork is the ultimate cool girl and has been for decades, and I am honored that I get to sport a shirt with her face on it. Like, it almost feels disrespectful. Who am I to wear her face on my shirt? But I really do love her and her music, and I don't take the responsibility of sporting her face lightly. And the last thing that I ended up getting was just the brown sort of orange, let me see how many colors I can name, dark salmon clay colored. Oh my God, get on with it. I got this blouse from Samantha Pleat, who, as I mentioned, was my favorite designer for years. I'm pretty sure that this is an older design of hers, and I'm so grateful that I got my hands on it. And I don't know if I'm crazy, but I honestly feel like the heart is really subtle, even though it's giant and right in the center. But admittedly, I'm apparently kind of a bad judge of what's subtle in its cuteness and what's not. Because recently I ordered a linen Hello Kitty bedspread wherein Hello Kitty's face is sort of like embossed and embroidered on the linen. I texted my 31-year-old long-term boyfriend with whom I am very in love, and I said, oh my God, I just got this linen bedspread. I think you're gonna like it. You like linen, I like Hello Kitty. And from what I inferred, I don't think that he thinks it's subtle at all. And then I showed it to my mom. I was like, look at this bedspread that I got. And she was like, oh my God, you're gonna drive him crazy. I kind of alluded to this earlier in the voiceover, but for some reason, mentally, I am fully in October and November right now in terms of fashion and also my mental state. And given that while I was walking around Beacon's Closet, I was like looking for fall pieces, and then I was like, fully, it is 90 degrees outside, feels like 100. What are you doing, babe? All of that to say, I'm obviously really excited about this for the fall for obvious reasons in terms of the color palette, but also because the material is a little bit thicker and I don't think I can wear it right now. Anyway, that's it for my silly little haul. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video because I love to share my finds with you all. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you around in another video. Bye!